This issue of Africa to tell its own story, and you have spoken about it during your panel discussion. With your vast experience, what do you think is lacking for Africans to tell their stories? Because this is an issue that has been going on and on.
It's, that's a very good question, and it is a question that we really, all of us, have to think about. We cannot just get at it individually talking about the problem and not together discussing how to address that problem. How do we tell the Africa story? What is the Africa story? All of us need to have a shared position on what constitutes that Africa story, so that we all can bring in our various parts and build that narrative. You know, a car, somebody has to make the wheels, somebody has to make the steering, somebody has to make the engine, somebody has to make the body. But it is all of these parts coming together nicely that will put that car on the road. We cannot tell the Africa story without some level of coordination. Journalists need to educate themselves. We need to open our eyes. We need to find out, how do I tell the Africa story in a way that can keep my paper going, my news organization?
Yes, but do you think really African governments have invested much in media? Because I'm saying this because
not at all.
Because I have seen a number of initiatives by African countries which has really thrived and reap enough. But again, when it comes to to media, things stand differently.
You're totally right. Totally. My organization just did a study on who funds media in Africa. Do you know who funds media? Western organizations. Western organizations. So does it surprise you that even our media plays more to the tune of those Western organizations than to the African? African governments, public institutions are totally out of it. That's part of the tragedy. So that's something that needs to change. We need to make it clear that until Africans become until Africans call the tune, they pay for the music. We'll hear other people's music.
I have seen some instances where, for example, an African journalist is not respected while working for his national broadcasting, for example. But when he gets a job in other international media, he does good.
Yes.
He does better than when he was at home. Where does this paradigm of disrespect coming from?
Again, you're asking all the right questions. And the leadership of media on this continent needs to step back and ask themselves the same question. The reasons are obvious. One, media is disrespected because media is available to the next buyer. So you can be bought easily. The journalist goes to report a story. The guy who's being reported just believes that if they give you $10, you'll tell their story. You'll forget your national story. You'll forget your Africa story. You'll tell their story for $10. That's the problem. That's the problem. And then another problem. They know that you'll never research, go deeply, understand the issues. You exist as the journalist at the level of the man on the streets. So the only difference is that you have that platform. You have that television, or you have that radio, or that newspaper. That's the problem. So if the day media professionals start doing deep research to understand the issues from all aspects, from the governments, from the civil society, from the ordinary citizen, from the expert, from the day you talk to all of them and do a synthesis of all of that, so that every one of them learns from you. The day we do that, the day a critical mass of journalists do that, it will change this narrative. The day the majority of journalists refuse brown envelopes, the day they carry themselves with dignity, the day they respect the ethics of the profession, of their own profession, the day we respect that, the majority of media professionals, the day they do that, it will change everything.
Thank you so much, sir, for having accepted our invitation. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.